Mid-stage. 15,000 people. Elvis Presley's voice cracked. He dropped the microphone. The arena froze. Nobody was ready for what they were about to hear. The Las Vegas International Hotel, August 1974. Elvis stood under the blinding spotlights, sweat rolling down his face, his white jumpsuit glittering like broken glass. He was halfway through "Love Me Tender" when his voice broke. Not from exhaustion. Not from the heat. From something deeper. Something that had been building inside him for weeks. The band behind him kept playing for a moment, confused. Then silence. Complete, suffocating silence. 15,000 people held their breath as Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, stood frozen on stage with tears streaming down his face. What happened next would become one of the most emotional moments in music history. But to understand it, we need to go back 3 weeks earlier. Memphis, Tennessee. Late July 1974. Elvis was at Graceland between tour dates, trying to rest but unable to sleep. The pressure was crushing him. The divorce from Priscilla had been finalized months ago. His health was deteriorating. The pills were piling up. And the performances, those sacred moments when he connected with his audience, were starting to feel hollow. His manager kept pushing. More shows. More money. More everything. But Elvis felt empty. He sat in the jungle room at 3 a.m., staring at gold records on the wall, wondering if any of it mattered anymore. That's when the letter arrived. But nobody knew about that letter. Not his band. Not his crew. Not even his closest friends. And what was written inside would change everything that was about to happen on that Vegas stage. The letter was from a woman named Sarah Mitchell. 23 years old. Terminal cancer. Stage 4. Doctors gave her 3 months. She had written to Elvis not asking for money, not asking for a meeting, just asking for one thing, to hear him sing "Love Me Tender" one more time before she died. She wrote, "Your voice was my mother's favorite thing in the world. She died when I was 7. Every night before bed, she would play your records and hold me. When I close my eyes and hear you sing, I feel her arms around me again. I know you receive thousands of letters. I know you'll probably never read this. But if somehow you do, please know that your music gave me the only mother I have left." Elvis read that letter 17 times. He kept it folded in his jacket pocket. He carried it with him to every show. Subscribe now and drop a comment below, because what Elvis did next shocked everyone who knew him. Las Vegas. August 12, 1974. The night of the show. Elvis arrived at the venue 6 hours early. His security team thought he was being paranoid. His band thought he was having another episode. But Elvis wasn't there for rehearsal. He was there to find someone. He had his people track down Sarah Mitchell's address from the letter. He had his team call hospitals in Memphis. He discovered she had been moved to a hospice facility 2 weeks ago. Her condition was critical. She couldn't travel. She would never see him perform live. So Elvis made a decision that no one expected. He called the hospice directly. He spoke to Sarah's nurse. He explained who he was. At first, they didn't believe him. Then he sang 2 lines of "Can't Help Falling in Love" over the phone. The nurse cried. She put him through to Sarah's room. Sarah was barely conscious. The nurse held the phone to her ear. Elvis said, "Sarah, this is Elvis. I got your letter. I'm going to sing for you tonight. And I want you to know, every word will be for you and your mama." Sarah couldn't speak, but she squeezed the nurse's hand. That night, as Elvis walked onto that Vegas stage, he carried more than just a microphone. He carried a promise. He carried the weight of a dying girl's last wish. He carried the ghost of a mother who had loved his music. The show started normally. Elvis performed his hits. The crowd roared. He smiled, he moved, he gave them the show they paid for. But inside, his heart was fracturing. Then came the moment for "Love Me Tender." The lights dimmed. The band started the familiar intro. Elvis lifted the microphone. But before he could sing the first verse, something happened that no performer should ever experience. He saw her. Not Sarah. He couldn't see Sarah. She was 200 miles away, dying in a hospice bed. But in the front row, he saw a woman, mid-40s, holding a photograph, crying silently. The photograph was of a younger woman and a little girl. The woman in the photo looked exactly like the crying woman in the audience. The little girl in the photo was holding an Elvis record. Elvis stared at that photograph. And in that split second, everything collapsed. His voice broke mid-word. His hand trembled. The microphone slipped from his grip and hit the stage with a metallic thud that echoed through the arena. The arena plunged into death silence. Elvis Presley stood under the spotlight, tears rolling down his face, and for the first time in his career, he couldn't perform. He couldn't move. He couldn't breathe. Backstage, his manager started panicking. The band looked at each other, terrified. Security moved toward the stage. But before anyone could reach him, Elvis did something no one expected. He walked off the stage. Not to the wings. Not to his dressing room. He walked down the stairs, into the audience. 15,000 people watched in stunned silence as Elvis Presley, in his full white jumpsuit and gold-studded belt, walked directly to the woman in the front row. He knelt in front of her. He took her hands. And he whispered something that only she could hear. She nodded. She sobbed. She showed him the photograph. Elvis looked at the photo for a long time. Then he kissed her hands, stood up, and walked back on stage. The crowd was frozen. No one knew what to do. No one knew what was happening. Elvis picked up the microphone. His voice was raw. Broken. Real. He said, "I need to tell you something. All of you. Right now. But here's the unbelievable part of this story. The part nobody expected. The part that would change how the world saw Elvis Presley forever." Elvis stood at the center of that stage and confessed everything. He told the audience about Sarah. He told them about the letter. He told them about the phone call to the hospice. He told them that Sarah's mother had died holding her, listening to his voice on a record player. He told them that for years he had performed for crowds but forgotten why music mattered. Then he said something that broke the arena. "I forgot that my voice doesn't belong to me. It belongs to every person who ever needed comfort. It belongs to every mother who sang my songs to their children. It belongs to every kid who felt alone and found company in a melody. I got lost in the lights and the money and the fame. But tonight a dying girl reminded me why I sing. And I almost couldn't do it. I almost failed her." The silence was suffocating. Then Elvis looked at the woman in the front row and said, "This song is for your mother. This song is for your daughter. This song is for every person in this room who has ever loved someone they couldn't hold anymore." He turned to his band. "From the top. And don't stop until I say so." The music started again. But this time, Elvis didn't perform. He sang. Really sang. Like his life depended on it. Like every word was a prayer. His voice cracked on the second verse. He didn't hide it. He let it break. He let the emotion pour out raw and unfiltered. And when he reached the chorus, something extraordinary happened. The audience began singing with him. Not loud. Not like a concert. Quiet. Intimate. Like a church hymn. 15,000 people, singing together, carrying Elvis through the song because he couldn't carry it alone. Tears streamed down faces throughout the arena. Strangers held hands. People who had come for a show were witnessing something else entirely. They were witnessing a man stripped of his persona, standing vulnerable and human in front of them. Elvis finished the song. The last note hung in the air. No one applauded. No one moved. The silence was sacred. Then Elvis spoke one more time. "Sarah Mitchell, if you're listening somehow, I kept my promise. This was for you and your mama. And I hope, wherever she is, she heard it too." He set the microphone down gently. He bowed. And he walked off stage. The show didn't continue. Elvis didn't come back for an encore. The lights came up. The audience filed out in silence, many still crying, unsure of what they had just witnessed. Backstage, Elvis sat alone in his dressing room. His manager was furious about the cancelled show. The promoters were calculating lost revenue. But Elvis didn't care. He pulled out the letter from Sarah and read it one more time. Then he made another call to the hospice. The nurse answered. Her voice was soft. Mr. Presley, I'm so sorry. Sarah passed away about 20 minutes ago. Elvis closed his eyes. Was she peaceful? She was smiling, the nurse said. Right before she went, she squeezed my hand and whispered something. What did she say? She said, I heard him. Tell him I heard him. Tell him Mama heard him too. Elvis hung up the phone. He sat in that dressing room for 3 hours, alone, crying. Share this story if you believe music is more than entertainment. Subscribe if you think some moments are bigger than fame. Because what happened next proved that this night changed Elvis forever. The woman from the front row, the one with the photograph, was named Margaret Chin. Her mother had died of cancer in 1969. Her daughter, the little girl in the photo, had leukemia. She was 8 years old. She had 3 months to live. Margaret had brought her daughter to the show that night. The little girl was too weak to sit in the arena, so she stayed in the car with Margaret's husband, listening to the concert through the parking lot speakers. After Elvis knelt in front of Margaret, after he saw the photograph, he didn't just go back on stage. He had told her, "Bring your daughter backstage after the show. Please." But there was no after the show. Elvis had ended it early. Margaret thought the invitation was lost. She was wrong. At midnight there was a knock on her hotel room door. It was Elvis's bodyguard. "Mr. Presley would like to see you and your family. Now. If that's okay." They brought the little girl, weak and pale, wrapped in blankets. They took her to Elvis's suite. He was still in his jumpsuit, but the persona was gone. He was just a man. He sat with the little girl for 2 hours. He sang to her. Quietly. No microphone. No audience. Just his voice and her smile. He gave her his scarf, the one he'd worn on stage. He gave her a photo of himself signed, "To the bravest girl I ever met. Love, Elvis." The little girl, whose name was Lily, fell asleep in Elvis's arms while he hummed, "Love Me Tender." Margaret cried the entire time. Before they left, Elvis handed Margaret an envelope. Inside was a check for $50,000 and a note. For Lily's treatment. For her memories. For her future, however long or short. She reminded me why I sing. Thank you for bringing her into my life. Lily Chin died 6 weeks later. She was buried holding Elvis's scarf. Margaret Chin kept that scarf's twin, the one Elvis had given her that night. Years later, she donated it to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with a letter explaining the story. The letter ended with, "Elvis Presley wasn't a king that night. He was a human being who remembered that fame means nothing if you forget to feel." That Vegas performance was never officially recorded. No bootleg exists. The only evidence is the testimonies of the 15,000 people who were there. And every single one of them says the same thing. It was the most powerful thing they ever witnessed. Elvis continued touring after that night, but something had shifted. He started asking his team to find letters like Sarah's. He started bringing people backstage. He started stopping mid-show to talk to the audience, to tell them stories, to remind them why music matters. His health continued to decline. The pills continued. The weight continued to pile on. But in those final years, the humanity came back. The connection came back. On August 16, 1977, Elvis Presley died. Among his personal effects, found in his bedroom at Graceland, was Sarah Mitchell's letter. It was worn from being folded and unfolded hundreds of times. Next to it was the photograph Margaret Chin had shown him. And next to that was a small toy, a stuffed bear that Lily Chin had given him the night they met. These items are now displayed at Graceland in a private exhibit called The Heart Behind the King. Visitors who see them often leave in tears. Because the real story of Elvis Presley isn't about hit records or gold jumpsuits or sold-out shows. It's about a man who forgot himself, was reminded by a dying girl's letter, and spent his final years giving back the only thing that ever truly mattered: his voice, his heart, his humanity. Share this story. Subscribe. And remember, fame fades, but how you make people feel lasts forever.